themselves after, and the oldest is 14, the youngest is 3, and there's a total of 9. So I don't care what any teacher, guidance counselor, or any outside blood relative have to say. So Dave, please bring on our chairwoman for the Young Republicans for the state. Go ahead, bring on Jacquelyn. Oh, hey Jacquelyn, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
I am pretty good. I was like, because Jaquan had mentioned that you before, and I was like, she's a young Republican. No, he said she's our chairwoman. What what made you, as you see in the ties from the colleges, the high school, any social media app, how did you step out from the norm?
I mean, I was raised in a very conservative household, but I was still living in Savannah, where I'm from, whenever I previously met the former mayor of Savannah, and I got interested in politics. Interned for his campaign, worked on his campaign, and I saw a lack of young volunteers and young people that even knew what was going on. And that's when I started to get involved. I looked up, I saw the Young Republicans of Savannah, and that's when I started to get involved because I realized, especially in my friend group, I was really the only one that had any idea or even had any interest in what was going on in the world. And so that's kind of what got started, and I just went from there. I started a local club, got involved with the state board, and eventually ran for chairwoman this past year. So it's been a fun ride.
Now, I know there's a young Republican nationally across the board.
Mhm.
Do you feel like that you're going to step in that role, or are you waiting to build the young Republicans for the state of Georgia just a little bit more before you go for the national level?
Yeah, we have a lot of work here to do, especially with 26 coming up. The past couple cycles from 2022 to 2024, we've done deployments across the state to help elect our Republican leaders from a statewide level to getting involved in the presidential race last year. But we still have a lot of work to do next year. I don't think many people realize how difficult the midterms are going to be. And so it's going to take everyone getting involved, making phone calls, knocking doors, writing postcards, driving people to the polls, whatever it takes. It's going to take all of us jumping in and really making that effort to keep Georgia red. And so for right now, I'm happy. I'm happy staying here with my Georgia YRs and really helping us grow.
Well, this is something that irks my nerves. Y'all need to wait a little bit longer. It's not your time. You need to
Oh, yeah.
grow. You don't need to have a seat at the table. You can make some phone calls, maybe even knock on some doors. Yeah, you're not ready to hold a leadership position. Bullshniggity. If you go back and look at the signers of the Declaration of Independence, they was young YRs.
Hmm.
So why in the world, all of a sudden, we get into the day's society and time, and this is what you ain't got to nod or smile, but I call them geriatric psychopaths. Some that's older than I am that don't want to relinquish that power, but don't
Yeah.
even recognize the harm that they have put your generation in and my grandchildren. So how as because I'm a Gen Xer, I'm 50, you're a young Republican, and I always say, I'm too old for Turning Point. Well, I used to be a spokeswoman for Turning Point. Here's the point: how do we link up so Gen Z and Alpha don't have to go through this stuff that millennials and your generation has to go through? How do we change that?
It's having supportive people like yourself really advocate that no, we need young people into the party because I feel like most folks they're either intimidated or they think that we're trying to take over when that's not the case at all. We're trying to learn from the previous generation on how they do things and how possibly maybe we can come in and also help or maybe provide changes, improve some things because the older generation isn't going to be around forever.
Right?
And if we don't get looped into the process, if we are not taught how things are done or the best way to do things, how do they think when they are gone or they're no longer involved? How do they think we're just going to pick up the pieces? Like we need to actually be included in a lot of the process to be able to understand what the process even is. And I think that's the biggest disconnect is that we do have a lot of YR supporters across the state. So many have been helpful to not only myself, but YRs that are wanting to get involved in GOP leadership. But they're not always the loudest ones, right? We always talk about the ones that complain about YRs, that tell us that we're not ready, that try to put us in workhorse positions, or volunteer positions, or Heck, once we got asked after a long meeting about trying to get YRs involved, we were asked to help move offices. And it's like, no, that's not
Oh, wait,
necessarily
wait, wait,
what we're
wait.
here for.
Wait, they asked you to be three men in a truck?
I mean, basically, and I'm not saying like we can't help volunteer in that way, right? But let's also think about the different ways that maybe they can be in this minor leadership position, right?
Right?
Because we get asked all the time by GOP groups, how can I get more younger people to my meetings? And so by maybe offering something other than a Saturday morning breakfast, maybe putting a YR in some position on your board,
Hmm.
because if a young person shows up and sees another 25 or 26-year-old, they're going to think, oh, well, if they can do this and they're doing this, maybe I should, and maybe I
Absolutely.
can. They're going to actually see, if they see one of their own doing it, they're going to be more interested in getting involved. And so, yeah, like I said, just having allies like that reaching out to us and trying to help us and understanding that we're not trying to take over anything, we're trying to
But
learn is the
y'all
biggest
are.
thing.
Y'all gonna have to take over sooner or later because the generation above me, my mom's generation, and some people still have grandparents. They are
Mhm.
dying out quicker. That's just like any church. If you don't have babies in the church, that church is dead. And we see seen for the last decade, the Democratic Party has had the locked in on children, young adults, all of this stuff. And within the last 4 years, since the scamdemic, you've seen more church revivals on college campuses. You see more youth coming back to the way of life. This is God, family, country. You see more
Mhm.
people wanting to stand up for their rights and their generation. What do you think actually changed between 2020 and them never having a voice before?
I really do think, and you mentioned it, I think COVID changed so much. I saw an article about this the other day. I can't remember who did the polling, but you have a group of kids who were either in high school or in college, maybe about to graduate, that their final years of that period of time in their life were just taken away from them because they weren't allowed to actually graduate in person. I had plenty of college friends. Thankfully, I missed it by a year, but I had plenty of college friends that were graduating via Zoom while they were in part of their pajamas at their own house
Wow.
instead of the whole tapping down, receiving the diploma, everything. And so you have generations that saw essentially the government take that away from them. And they didn't react well. And so now I think you see a much more conservative approach to a lot of things. I think and again, this also has to deal with a lot with COVID, with the rise of social media and TikTok, Instagram Reels, all of that, you see a group of conservative guys, conservative ladies that are on those platforms, and they're getting a liberal agenda half the time shoved down their throat,
Yes.
and they're combating that in a traditional conservative way. Like they don't want to be told that they have to, because they're young, that they have to believe a certain thing or act a certain way. And so I think a lot of those dynamics tie into what you thankfully saw was essentially a Gen Z rise in the polls that really delivered a lot of states for President Trump. That is the biggest change. I was on the ground in 2020 when we were trying to reelect him, when everything happened. And there was that gap where the 18 to 40s did not go out and vote on the polls. They did, for whatever reason. It's not that they voted for Joe Biden or whatever else, they just didn't go vote. And so when you saw that increase in 24, that's what pushed them over the line. And
Hmm.
so now trying to harness that energy, which I mean, young Republican chapters and states across the nation have flourished with this because there's just this rise again of conservative Gen Z people from 18 to 40 that are actually wanting to get involved and they're not afraid to get involved anymore.
And I'm loving it because you're seeing so many, you're seeing so many young people, period. And I hate because I'm older now and I got to say young people, but it is. They're not gullible anymore. They're not
No.
gullible. They're out there with a louder voice. I'm actually seeing a lot of these college campuses, and okay, think Charlie Kirk, but Charlie Kirk gave them an outlet to come out there and speak their piece because they couldn't
Mhm.
speak it any time at these college campuses. And now that was the smartest idea is go to the places where these college campuses at. But here's a question for you because we see people your age out there on the internet destroying schools, buildings, destroying their communities and everything, those people are held as heroes. And then you swing the pendulum and you look at people like yourself, all these young Republicans, and a lot of young folks that don't even have a party to belong with, but they're shifting the dynamics in society to where we're getting back to that bring God back, bring family back. This is our country. We're going to fight for it, and we support our president. How in the world can you keep that and keep that momentum building, but build it across all the states in the United States?
I think a lot of it, because I think what also relates to your question too, is what are we going to do when President Trump is not on the ballot? I think between your question and also that in general, that's what we get asked a lot. And a lot of it, at least what we're seeing, is a very basic policy understanding of explaining what Republicans do and how, while right now with the whole tariff situation, it might be a little difficult, but in general, Republicans have the right policy ideas to where you can afford to buy a house when you want to start a family. You can go to Walmart and Publix and not spend $100 just to get 2 bags worth of groceries for yourself. You can actually get out of having to rent an apartment and pay insane amount for rent and you can actually afford a house, and whether you have a family or not, because you actually want to be, you can afford to save and do that for yourself. And so I think the more that we harp on that kind of messaging, a very basic messaging that our wallets don't belong to Washington, D.C., that Republicans want to keep Republicans want to keep voters money in their wallets, their tax money in their wallets instead, so they can use it, stimulate the economy, improve small businesses, spend money at small businesses, keep their communities thriving. That's the pipeline and the domino effect you get with Republican based policy ideas.
Oh my God, I'm finna go old school with you. I remember when, and I'm 50, I remember when a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house was $110,000. Not no more.
No.
Not you. Do you see this trend in Georgia? Period. Rent. You're never gonna own. There's whole communities popping up all over the place where you will never own a home, but you will have to rent it forever. And then,
What?
how in the world? And I look around at the world, since the powers that be, and even Joe Biden at one time used to call us globalists, globalists, globalists. Then tell me why in other nations their houses aren't 500, 600, 700, $800,000, and they can actually afford to live and breathe and eat at the same time. How do you think? Because it's gonna take your generation to either bring that back or break their backs.
We're gonna have to, because that's the cycle you get stuck in. If you're, let's say, like for myself, for example, right? I got a job. I used to live in Savannah. I was able to co-rent a whole house in Savannah for cheaper than I can rent my apartment currently in the city of Atlanta, where I have to live for work. And so you get stuck in this cycle to where you're paying so much for rent that you can't save enough to actually buy a
Right.
house. And so where do people expect this extra funding to come from? And you see it too. Housing is going to be a huge issue next year because everyone is trying to relate. They see what worked in 24, what President Trump put out there and what worked among young people. Like I saw John Ossoff put out a tweet the other day that he's looking into why rent is so expensive in Atlanta, and he's blaming the big companies
You
now.
better stop. Come on.
Uh-huh.
The rent
They're
of
already
the
starting. It's already
but the
starting
rent
because
in
they
the house.
realize that that is the messaging to get young people on your side.
He's been
That's the
there for
messaging
six
you get.
years. He's been there since you was even in middle school. So if he was gonna be paying attention to it, he would have paid
Yeah.
attention to it last year. And then Warlock, he literally has a rental house for $1 million that was gifted to him. So they can never. How is a they? They can't get down with you. They cannot get down with your generation. I don't care how young ass off is. He ain't
Yeah.
understanding. He will never understand that you have to literally pay more in rent than you did paying rent in Savannah a couple of years ago. He set this motion. He's in the Senate.
Yeah, and that's what we have to combat with as a party is you have to combat the lies with very simple, basic facts that any young person can understand. Like someone's gonna see that tweet and be like, "Oh, well, Senator Ossoff, he's trying to fit rent, he's trying to fix rent gouging, he's trying to make me be able to actually afford a house." No, he's been there since 2020 and hasn't done anything about it until a year before an election year. So young people can see that, and so
Wait,
those are kind of talking points that we already need to be combating them first of all. But that's where having young people involved not only at a county party level, but just in leadership in general, to where messaging is being devised and put out there, we have that insight to what actually works and lands with us.
this is how deep off the end he thinks young people are. He thinks y'all care about legions of demons. He said thee, they, their, and them. I'm sitting here like, dude, what are you talking demonic magistry and magicianry for when you need to be talking about greenbacks, dollar bills, and getting rich?
Who are they?
Who are
They
I
always
don't
look
know
at
who is
what
they.
is
Go ahead.
happening on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the extreme ones are always the ones that are the loudest. But if you talk to an average, I'm 26, right? You talk to an average 26-year-old that's just out there working to get a paycheck to pay their rent, or maybe they're already married and trying to pay their mortgage on their house. Like that kind of extreme messaging does not work with them. Your average person does not care about that. Your average person cares about how much it takes to put food on the table, how much their insurance costs for maybe themselves, their car insurance, their kids. That's what they care about. And so that's what you have to make this about, but in a very plain and simple way of, yep, Republican policies, they work.
I do.
Cassie, like we're right now, the Democrats are fighting us right now. If you've seen the reconciliation bill, they're fighting the
I feel,
Republicans on us
yeah,
extending the tax cuts
but
that
I
are
kind
going
of feel
to
bad for
help
you.
businesses.
I feel bad for the young Republicans. Why? You got to keep your mouth closed during the primary. You can't throw your hat in or knock on doors for anyone. Right now, you have the what is it, insurance commissioner John King running for Senate. Then you got Buddy Carter from your old stumpy ground running for Senate. So
Yeah.
you got all these people that's playing musical chairs inside of Georgia GOP politics, getting ready to go against an ass off and Karen Bass. This should be a shoe in if we stick with a message, but the message gotta be anything to combat. They're gonna call y'all racist. They're gonna
Mhm.
call you sexist, misogynist. All the issues is gonna come out. What is some of y'all game plan, especially young Republicans that can speak truth to life? What are some of y'all talking points and game plan to combat all of this that's getting ready to hit y'all?
I mean, everything that I mentioned is what we're talking on policy wise. Like when we have new people show up to our meetings, and maybe we've had some, especially some more of our metro chapters, like our Buckhead chapter, our Atlanta chapter, they're a little bit on the fence. They might be a little center left and are just policy curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're looking to see, okay, what are young Republicans actually about? What is this? What does this mean? What are they promoting here? And we're trying to be as open and welcoming as possible, to where if they're just looking into becoming a Republican, we're gonna accept them in, right? We're gonna talk to them actually about what this means. If they don't have to agree with us 100% of the time. Like we really are trying to build our tent to be as big as possible, so that next year, once, like you said, once we get out of the primary, we can actually all unite together and actually get to work. And so between now and what the primary next year is in May, I believe, so the next year, not only are we going to be putting out messaging to get more people at our actual chapter meetings, we're going to be fundraising so that way we can actually deploy across the state and door knock for whoever the nominee is at the Senate level, governor's level, what have you. And we're really just going to be trying to plan fun stuff to get more people involved. We try to do the fun things first and then ask them to do work when it matters.
Okay, if you're going to be doing work, I don't think it need to continue being a voluntary position, because if Charlie Kirk, a Trump Force 47, 45, 47 could pay just a little bit. I
Mhm.
think that we need to come up with that money too. Here's another thing. Democrats always promising something to young people and they cannot deliver. When these young people come off the street and say, "Hey, why should I join the Republican Party? The Democrats is, promising me $22 an hour if I stand on the side of the street with a sign. What can y'all do for me?" How do you combat that ideology that the Republicans need to owe somebody something or pay something in order to save not only our state but also our nation?
It's hard because at the level, at least just with the Georgian Republicans, I can't pay everyone. to go knock doors, I have to make sure that they're not only, maybe they're just bought into the candidate. That's what happened in 22. We were door knocking across the state for Governor Kemp. We door knocked about 600,000 doors in 4 to 5 deployments. And they had to be bought into either a candidate or they were bought into the YR brand that they wanted to help us, right? It's like, yep, my friends are in YRs. We're all traveling down Savannah to door knock for 2 days. It'll be fun. Let's do it. I'll happily take time off work to do that. But we also try to as well connect them with groups that maybe are hiring. There's groups like Americans for Prosperity that hire part-time door knockers. There's groups like Citizens for Free Enterprise that hire people to phone bank. I know Turning Point Action opens up positions sometimes. We try to also take that route as if that person wants to get involved at that next level to where they do want to get paid for something. We try and network and actually help them network and actually get connected to where they can get paid for that. But that's the thing, you gotta get them either bought in. If you can't do that, you gotta get them bought into either your brand, so making it to where we're all friends, we're a family, we enjoy doing this, or they're bought into the candidate because we don't have endless funds to be able to pay them to do this. Part of time, that means that we make more of a difference.
Yeah.
Because we're actually doing it. Like we actually knock the doors. You'll see stats, and I remember I saw this last year. You saw Kamala Harris and her team put out a lot of stats about all the doors they were knocking. Those doors were not actually being knocked. That was not true.
No, they were paying Beyonce and Meg Thee Stallion to clap that. You know what? Clap their booty cheeks just to get out the vote. But Dave just pointed at the floor. It's the end of the segment. Jacqueline, I know I'm too older-ish, maybe, but I want to help out as much as possible. I don't care if you have to get out anything that you need for us to get out. Use our page, use our platform, and help build young Republicans. And no offense, one day, just one day, I want to come to a revival. Y'all invite us old fogies. Look at everybody that's 50 just cringed. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and close out this segment. Go ahead.
And you can come anytime.
My husband said,
you are alumni.
My husband said, how do we find you? How do everybody find you? How do they donate to your cause? The Young Republican, you are the chairwoman. So yes, ma'am, I'm gonna let you close this one out.
Yeah, so that's me. I'm Jacquelyn Harn, Chairwoman for the Georgia Young Republicans. You can find all of my contact info, donation info, chapter info at Georgia, spell out Georgia, yr.org.com. All of our info's on there.
All right, everybody, y'all stay tuned. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. We'll be back with Mallory Staples. Go ahead, Dave.
The Real News Rewards app, it is the best app ever. The best way to support and keep up with everything Lucretia Hughes and save a ton of money at the same time.
Heart of Georgia, she stands tall and proud. A voice for the people, cutting through the crowd. Truth on her lips, fire in her soul. Lucretia Hughes, she's on.
Ready to unlock the most extraordinary savings membership ever? Members are saving over $5,000 a year, and now you can too. With over 2 million ways to save, this app is your personal savings concierge, covering travel, entertainment, shopping, dining, and more. Let's get started. Grab your mobile device, click the link, and sign up using your registration code. Heads up, it's case sensitive. Prefer a bigger screen? You can also sign in on your computer. Click submit, then install. Your membership is live. Now, let's navigate your savings. From the home screen, tap Get Your Tickets. This is where the fun begins. You've unlocked deals on theme parks, cruises, concerts, and more. Over 80,000 events and over 1 million tickets at the best prices. Concert tickets? Get tickets to the hottest shows, plus up to 65% off service fees. Baseball? Big savings. Broadway shows? Even bigger discounts. Movie night? Absolutely. Thrill rides? We've got you. Next, tap Travel on the menu bar. Let's plan a trip to New York City. Enter your dates, instant hotel savings. We beat competitors hands down with 0 hidden fees. Choose from 850,000 plus hotels worldwide, plus flights and car rentals. You're traveling smarter now. Feeling hungry? Tap Eat. Find offers at local favorites and top national brands. Looking for fun? Tap Play. Endless possibilities. Shopping spree? Tap Shop. Save online and in store, even on Costco and Sam's Club memberships. Don't miss special offers and featured deals, exclusive savings, and fresh updates. Tap Local for every category imaginable. What are you waiting for? The more you use it, the more you save. Want to share the love? Tap Share App from the menu or your profile. Invite friends and family. Whether you're planning a vacation, grabbing lunch, or scoring game tickets, you are now ready to do more, save more, and live better. Welcome to Effortless Savings. Every day, everywhere.
Welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back to the Real News with Lucretia Hughes and Fussy Ass Dave. Just fussing for no reason. Hey there, so y'all know what to do.
Absolutely.
Here we go.
No
See, I got
reason.
time. Here we go. Just you see, you hear this crap. But y'all make
No
sure y'all
reason
go over there
whatsoever.
and look in the chat room for the app and the link to the app, so you can go straight there and click on it. Like I said, it's called Save an App. But not only that, it's a fundraiser for me and Dave. That is how Matt, the creator, said to go ahead and introduce it, because actually it is. Like I said, the turnaround, you buy today, they verified, you get clicked on, you get added on, you get all the stuff is set up, and then 2 days later, boom, Krisha ain't got to live on the street. It's funny, but it ain't. I'm gonna have to laugh about it or cry, and I've done enough stressing out for the last 5 years, so we're not gonna do that down no dang on more. If this is the path that God has, then we're just gonna have to accept it with y'all help of us not sleeping on the street. So y'all, like I said, y'all get over there to fallbackusa2.myshopify.com. There's also the cost saving app that is for the Real News with Lucretia Hughes, where you can stay in contact with us and everything. Dave, there's a way. There's gonna have to be a button put inside of this app for instant reply messaging to straight to me or straight to Dave. We need to figure out how we're going to do that in order to keep in contact with everyone at all single time. So like I said, 2 weeks and counting, and let's go ahead and start pivoting to where we can actually understand and not have a wish and a prayer. So everybody, welcome back to the show. Like I said, this is episode, what, Dave? 1754. 1754 shows for everybody else. All right then. Hey there, what is going on? We are back.